This is wild. Justin Fields could be a factor this weekend against the Ravens on Wild Card Weekend, where Mike Tomlin is looking to break his playoff losing streak, and the Steelers are looking at a free agent defensive back to help out this team in a time of need. We're going to identify who that player is, if he could actually be a Steeler in the next 2 days before the roster lock, and we're going to talk about Mike Tomlin's legacy and the history of playoff losses, especially in recent years since Ben Roethlisberger's retirement. All of that and more today on Steelers Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. If you haven't already, hit that sub button for me. 91% of you are not yet subscribed to the channel. If you want the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news and content, this is the channel for you. Steelers Digest. We're going to talk about all of that here today. Some rumors circulating around the Steelers and how are they going to fix this defense heading into a matchup against the juggernaut Baltimore Ravens on Saturday at 8 o'clock. Wild Card Weekend incoming, and the defense has been declining for quite some time. This defense was one of the best in the NFL for the first 10-ish weeks of the season, and it just does not look the same over the last few weeks. Since the bye week, this defense has not been anywhere close to the way they started this season, and this is officially their second worst defensive season in the last 5 years. Just not good. Not good by any stretch of the imagination, and we got to look at the numbers to back that up. The Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024, I know that it's 2025 now, but in 2024, they were really good up until the bye week, and then things started to change for our Steelers. And you take a look at the numbers down the stretch after the bye week, the points allowed took a giant leap forward, and not in a good way. As you take a look, the Washington Commanders put up 27 points on the Steelers. The only two games that don't really fit into the category that I'm mentioning are the divisional games against the Ravens and the Browns. Half of those divisional games, to be more specific. Against Baltimore, the first time when we won, we only gave up 16 points. But then after that, things got a little bit hairy. 24 points allowed to the Cleveland Browns, an offense that should not be putting up 24 points against you. And then 38 points allowed to Cincinnati, followed by 14 points allowed to Cleveland. That was the other of the two games that I was referring to. And then here's where it got really bad. 27 points allowed to the Philadelphia Eagles, 34 points allowed to the Baltimore Ravens, 29 points allowed to the Kansas City Chiefs, and then 19 points allowed to the Bengals again. So that means they allowed at least 19 points in all but 2 games since the bye week. That is not good. That is not a recipe for success for the Steelers, because think about what Pittsburgh Steelers football is. Think about what it means to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. This is a team that is built on defensive excellence. And when your defense is not excellent, well, it's kind of hard to win football games. So this decline has caused the Steelers a significant drop-off to the point where they were considered a Super Bowl contender. And now, are they even a playoff contender? Like, could they even win one playoff game? Everybody is calling them a one and done. And that has been the case for years. So why should we believe any different? It sucks. It just sucks. I mean, watching that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, I'll tell you, I was getting ready to get on a plane that night. I watched the first half, and I knew the game was over. When I got on that plane and couldn't watch the rest of the game, I knew the Steelers were going to lose. So when I checked my phone after I got off my flight, all I had to do was watch some highlights of George Pickens dropping passes and Russell Wilson not going out of bounds late in the game, and I was frustrated. But the defense, honestly, the defense played really well against Cincinnati. Based on everything that I saw, they were creating a couple turnovers. They made some big stops. Other than that first drive where Joe Burrow walked them right down the field, this guy has an argument to be the MVP in the league. Of course they're going to score some points. Jamar Chase, Triple Crown winner in receiving. That doesn't happen very often. This is a potent offense that the Steelers were able to slow down enough to give themselves a chance to win a game that they definitely should not have won, and they didn't. So that's my take on it. I think the defense was a little bit better against Cincinnati, but overall, since the bye week, they just haven't been their dominant selves. It just hasn't been the same Pittsburgh Steelers team since that bye week, and there's a lot of reasons for that, I understand, but let's look no further than the secondary. First thing you got to talk about is Dante Jackson. He didn't play in the game against the Bengals, and Trice was getting exposed. So if you look back a little bit further to Dante Jackson when he was actually in the fold, he was PFF graded as one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL. That's not something that we need to have on the field opposite of Joey Porter Jr., who's also had his fair share of injury concerns lately. So Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson aren't really going to cut it, which is why I have a proposition that I saw and that I'm really liking. I think we should do it. Bring back Patrick Peterson. And here's an article that tells you just that. The Steelers aren't going to find a high-level starting cornerback in free agency at this point in the season. But Patrick Peterson has been available since the Steelers released him in March. So could we see a reunion with Patrick Peterson, a former all-pro corner, and the black and gold? I'm all for it. I think any help we can get, especially a veteran like Pat Pete. I know he wasn't that good when he was a Steeler, but I still enjoyed watching Pat Pete. Yeah, he's lost a step since his all-pro days in Arizona, but he's still a very good player, and he might be an upgrade over Trice. So I think put him in the fold. He doesn't even have to play, but if Dante Jackson's not out there or if he continues to struggle, at least you can get Patrick Peterson out there on the field. He's been staying ready, working out, hoping for an opportunity to play for some NFL team. Why not? Why not us? Give him another shot. There's a reason we signed him in the first place. It's not like he's lost that much of a step since we cut him. I mean, he quite literally is the same player that we had on our team. And honestly, he's one of our best defensive backs, even though he is old and not as good as he used to be. So I would love bringing Patrick Peterson back. I'm all about it. After I saw that, I'm like, let's do it. Why not? Why would we not? I mean, cornerback is a really difficult position. DB in general, but cornerback specifically, a very hard position to fill. There aren't very many elite corners in the league. So to have a guy that has been elite in his career, that would also help aid the development of Joey Porter Jr., which is one of the main reasons I was all for drafting Joey Porter Jr. and signing Patrick Peterson in the first place, because it was a good tandem for them to play together, understand, coverages, understand how the Steelers defense likes to play. And Patrick Peterson wouldn't have to learn anything because he already knows the playbook. It's the last guy that played at that position for the Steelers. So why not bring him back? I don't know. I can't think of a reason not to. So that's my take on it. The defense has struggled. Patrick Peterson could help out. So I say, let's bring him in, Omar Khan. Why not? Patrick Peterson, bring him back. I'm all for it. Next topic is the quarterback controversy surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is a serious issue. Russell Wilson has not been Russell Wilson. He has not been the same. When he first took over the starting job from Justin Fields, the Steelers got that boost that they needed, that jolt. And, it kind of fizzled a little bit lately. Offense isn't doing very well, to say the least. I think that's an understatement. But we need some kind of spark. Right now, we need a spark. It is desperation time. We've lost 4 games in a row, which I never thought I was going to have to watch again. This is something that's happened to the Steelers in recent years where we have this late season collapse as soon as we get to 10 wins or whatever. I'm just like, man. It's like when Mike Tomlin's teams get to 10 wins, it's just something changes. So we're going to talk about that in a second here when we talk about Mike Tomlin. But first, we do have to discuss the issue at hand, and that is the quarterback position of the Pittsburgh Steelers. An issue that has been an issue for quite some time, and it's still an issue even though we have Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Well, let me tell you. Not sure if Russell Wilson is still going to be on the team next year. We were talking about extending him for a long time, the way he was playing, the way the offense looked, how he elevated George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, another 1,000-yard season. Don't know if he's going to be here next year. Have another Steelers Digest video coming out about that. But Russell Wilson is not a guarantee. And if you look at the contract situation, Russell Wilson, when he was signed, it was almost like a tryout, okay? He gets a 1-year deal, a minimum, right? So he's coming over from Denver, and he's on a 1-year prove-it deal, pretty much a minimum salary, no strings attached, no actual investment in Russell Wilson. It's like, let's see what you can do. Let's see what Justin Fields can do, and then we'll see what our best path forward is for success. Well, Russell Wilson was proving that he still has some juice left in the tank until he wasn't proving that he had more juice left in the tank. And now we're not sure what we have at quarterback. But what I do know is that Justin Fields is on the roster. Why not utilize a quarterback that brings a completely different element to the offense, his legs? There is not many quarterbacks in the NFL that can keep up with Justin Fields and what he can do as good as anybody. Lamar might be the only one that can move better than Justin Fields. So if you put Justin Fields out there, the Ravens will not know what hit him. They will not know what to do against Fields because they will be preparing for Russell Wilson. So this is a perfect opportunity to throw a wild card at the Ravens that we have in our back pocket. Justin Fields is the secret weapon for the Steelers that we can deploy when we best need it. What better use for your secret weapon than a playoff game against your arch rival, the Baltimore Ravens? That's just my opinion. Okay, I'm not saying that he's going to start. I would like to see that, but even using him a little bit, mixing him in certain packages, letting the Ravens defense stay on their heels and force them to defend a different look, a different, offense per se than the Russell Wilson offense that they've already stopped before. So I just like the idea, and Mike Tomlin obviously is open to the idea of at least deploying Justin Fields in certain situations, and I think that would be a step up for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to utilize the player that you have on your roster that can do things your other quarterback can't. What do you have to lose? I would say you have nothing to lose. So let's look at this next tweet that out. It said that the best plan against the Ravens is to start Justin Fields. The quote says, "I may be crazy, but I think if you're going to put it out there and you're going to beat Baltimore, the best option is Justin Fields. The way they're playing offensively, the struggles they've had as an offense, where they're at right now, not only running the ball, but taking sacks, putting yourself behind the chains is a problem. And Russell Wilson has a history of taking sacks. In the last 3 games, he's taken 12 sacks. Well, the argument against that is that Justin Fields gets sacked a lot as well. So you can't really use that as an argument. I understand where you're coming from there, but Justin Fields is also a guy that takes a lot of sacks. I just think he has a little bit more mobility to avoid those sacks and move around in the pocket. We've seen Russell try to escape in recent games. It just hasn't worked out for Russ. I mean, he's a little bit older, obviously, so he's a little bit slower than he used to be. That escapability, that improvisation that Russell Wilson has been great at his entire career is not something that he still has in his toolbox to the same level that he used to. So that's something you have to understand, is that obviously we're not getting prime Russell Wilson here. Justin Fields, you could argue, he's still approaching the prime of his career. He hasn't even hit that mountain yet, and that's why I was so excited to get Justin Fields, because I thought maybe he could be the future. He was a lost cause in Chicago. That is where quarterbacks go to die. The Steelers actually could develop Justin Fields and build an offense that fits his play style and have a decent offense. I have no reason to believe that Justin Fields can't still be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Look at what he did at Ohio State. Do you have to look any further than how dominant he was as a Buckeye? I don't think you do. I think that tells you everything you need to know. That guy would get hurt, break his ribs, and go right back in the game and ball out. I mean, he was an absolute monster at Ohio State. So I would love to see even some version of that Justin Fields development in the NFL, and I really do think he could be the future here. So why not now? It's literally, you're playing a team that you are 10-point underdogs against, a team that already destroyed you the last time you played them. Why not take a big risk, take that big home run swing and give it a shot? Why not start Justin Fields, man? I mean, I would love to see it. I think it gives the Steelers a good chance to win the football game, but no, most people are not going to agree with me there. So I'm going to stop talking about it, but obviously it is an option that we have at our disposal, and I think we should consider it. So one more thing while we're on this topic, though, I do want to show you the first down numbers. Just take a look at those. They speak for themselves. I don't even have to read them to you because you can read them, but the Steelers on first down have been horrible. I mean, flat out embarrassing. Okay, so you got nothing to lose. If you're putting yourself behind the sticks every single drive, it's pretty difficult to convert third downs and even fourth and short opportunities when they decide to go for them. You can't put yourself in those situations. You have to be close enough to the first down that you can even compete for the first down instead of putting yourself so far back by taking sacks, running the ball for 1 yard on first down, or even worse, getting TFL'd on first down, and then having to work your way back from that, because then the defense knows exactly what you're going to do. And then the Steelers have a tendency with Russell Wilson to go for the home run shot, to go for the moon ball instead of trying to get the first down. And with Justin Fields, that's not going to be an issue. That's not going to be an issue. Justin Fields, if he has to, he can go get it with his legs. Russell Wilson's not going to do that. You saw what happened when Russell Wilson tried to go get it with his legs last game. That was not a good look at all. Dude should have gone out of bounds. He tries to truck somebody, acting like he's back to being 25-year-old Russell Wilson. No. No. Just get out of bounds, buddy, and give us another chance to throw the ball. But he took some time off the clock. They had to use a timeout. It was a bad finish that last game. Really bad. Just bad clock management, bad football altogether. I need a change right now. I need Russell Wilson out, Justin Fields in right now. That's what I'm calling for. If you start Russ, I love Russ, always have. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, and I want him to succeed, but man, this offense is just dead in the water right now. We need some kind of spark, and Justin Fields is that spark. Use Justin Fields. If you're not going to start him, at least use that man, because his skill is untapped, unmatchable on this offense. He is one of the most skilled players on this roster, and we don't even use him. I mean, I showed you in a previous video the snap percentages, and even quarterback was on that list. Russell Wilson has played pretty much every snap. They haven't even thought about using Justin Fields before he even got hurt in certain packages at all. So Mike Tomlin might be open to the idea, but is he actually willing to do this? I don't know. I would like to see that. I hope Mike Tomlin changes some heart a little bit here and decides, hey, this is our best chance to win a football game. I really believe that. I'm not just saying this, guys. I really believe that Justin Fields could help us beat the Ravens. I'm not just playing. I really believe Justin Fields could help the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Ravens in the wild card round. Will it work into the second round? I don't know, but I think at least snapping this playoff drought would be huge. That'd be a successful season for the Steelers. We get first rounded again. It's a lost cause, man. We had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at our disposal, and we didn't use Justin Fields. I mean, come on. Then he's going to go sign with the Cleveland Browns or something, and we're going to miss our opportunity. We're going to miss our window. So that's just my opinion. I know it's an opinion, but other people have that opinion too. I just showed you. So I would love to see Russell Wilson, maybe just take a couple snaps off at the very least and let Justin Fields do his thing and help us win this game, because it's a big game for the Steelers. We split the season series 1-1, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. We got to talk about Mike Tomlin's legacy, because that is something that is being questioned right now by a lot of people, okay? It seems to be every year we have the same team, right? We are a team that wins more games than we lose 100% of the time under Mike Tomlin. Most consecutive, non-losing seasons in NFL history for a coach. He is very consistent in the regular season. Now, when you look at the playoffs, it's a little bit of a different story with our boy Mike Tomlin. So we got to show you the numbers. I mean, the numbers will tell the tale. Honestly, I saw this stat, and it made me really sad, but it really opened my eyes to realize how bad Mike Tomlin actually has been in the playoffs. Worst playoff win percentages in modern era. Minimum 10 games. Mike Tomlin is 5th on that list. 444 win percentage in the postseason. And then at the end, I'm not saying I agree with what he said at the end, that Mike Tomlin is one of the worst playoff coaches of all time. But the stats kind of back that up a little bit. So it's kind of hard to argue with the facts. And Mike Tomlin has not had success in the playoffs. That is a fact. And nothing's really changed. It's, again, winning season every year, but does that really matter if you're just going to lose in the playoffs? And I made the argument before to a lot of people that complain and want to bash the Steelers for the way that they've played over the last 20 seasons. Okay, if you win and have a winning record every season, that means you're not going through a rebuild. A lot of teams have to go through a rebuild to retool and get the players needed to win enough games to make the playoffs. The Steelers don't have to rebuild, because under Mike Tomlin, they just stay at this mid-level, right? They are retooling on the fly, right? And they're drafting well. They're getting decent young players to compensate for players leaving. They're making good free agent acquisitions, a la Patrick Queen, good trades, a la Minka Fitzpatrick, from the Dolphins. You make these good moves, right? You get a late round pick, you get TJ Watt out of it, right? And they make good decisions, and then it just doesn't really all come together for them. Quarterback has been a big question mark since Big Ben retired. We went through the whole carousel of quarterbacks, including Kenny Pickett, waste of a first round pick. But now you have two competent quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Russell is not doing Russell things right now. I would love to say, hey, let's instill the faith in Russell Wilson and let's, see what he can do against the Ravens, but we've already seen that. So this is where Mike Tomlin has to go outside the box, and if he makes that quarterback change, that might be an example of how he can change that win percentage that he's had over his career in the playoffs. There's a reason he's struggled in the playoffs, and it's because he's not willing to change his methods. He is stuck in his ways of how this should go. And let's look at another stat here. This is historically Mike Tomlin's coaching results in the postseason, and you can look all the way down that list. Since Ben Roethlisberger retired, the Steelers have not won a playoff game. And there's a reason for that, right? Obviously, we've struggled at the quarterback position. The defense has been okay, good enough to win games, but we haven't had that offense that we thought we had this year. And this year, we're in a similar situation where we get a playoff game against a team that's favored to beat us by 10 points, and Mike Tomlin has a chance to change history for himself. But to do that, you really do have to think outside the box, and I don't know if he's willing to do that. We get the same consistency every year in the regular season, but it's also the same consistency every year in the playoffs, and it's not a good consistency in the playoffs. So I just want Mike Tomlin for once to think outside the box. Maybe Justin Fields is the answer. Maybe that's how we finally win a playoff game. I would love that because it's miserable watching these teams be mid every year and then not able to win a playoff game. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys is this. The Steelers and Ravens split the season series, something I said earlier. But also know that the Steelers are 3-1 against the Ravens all time in the postseason. The last matchup was a 30-17 Baltimore victory on January 3rd, 2015. Before that, the Steelers were 3-0 against the Ravens in the playoffs, and the Steelers have lost their last 5 playoff games, what I was just talking about with Mike Tomlin, and haven't won a postseason contest since 2016 when they advanced to the AFC Championship game, losing to the New England Patriots 36-17. So understand that Mike Tomlin's legacy is seriously in question right now. As good as he has been in the regular season over the course of his career, as good as his teams has been consistency-wise throughout Mike Tomlin's tenure as the Steelers head coach, they have not done enough in the playoffs. And that's where legacies are defined. It doesn't matter what happens in the regular season. They don't ask how, they ask how many. And if you're not winning Super Bowls, Mike Tomlin has won Super Bowl. So you can't say he's a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, you can make that argument, but you can't base that argument off regular season success because his teams have never been up here. I understand that my argument earlier, a rebuild is usually a time period where teams struggle. Mike Tomlin's teams have never struggled. They've had a winning record every year. So you could make that argument that, wow, he's one of the best coaches ever because with bad teams, he's been able to make them mid. Well, here's the problem. When you have mid teams, he should be able to elevate them to be good, and that just hasn't been the case. This roster is one of the better Steelers teams in recent years. Now that we have a quarterback, we have less excuses, right? George Pickens missed some time. I understood the offense was going to struggle during that time period, but then we play the Bengals, so it comes down to Arthur Smith as well. This isn't all on Mike Tomlin, this stretch of bad games. Arthur Smith is not doing a good enough job either, and he's getting head coaching consideration. Do y'all forget what happened in Atlanta? I mean, okay, so that's a completely different conversation for another day, but just understand this is a big weekend for the Steelers and an even bigger one for Mike Tomlin. He has to snap this drought or he might go down as one of the worst coaches in the playoffs in NFL history. And that is a guarantee that you're not a Hall of Famer if you have that kind of resume in the playoffs, regardless of how bad some of those teams were that he took to the postseason. I don't think you can come back from a sub 400 playoff win percentage. That's insurmountable. So for Mike Tomlin's sake and for the Steelers' sake, I hope we get the job done this weekend. We will have a playoff game preview coming up on Steelers Digest in the next video after this one. So later in the week, stay tuned for another Steelers Digest video preparing us for the game this weekend, wildcard weekend, against the Baltimore Ravens, a divisional matchup, our heated rival. And it's going to be fun. I'm telling you guys, I'm really excited to see this weekend. I hope we could see some Justin Fields quarterback action for the Steelers. And let's turn the tide after this terrible losing streak. You're 0-0 now. You're going into the playoffs. Just try to go 1-0. Like James Franklin said, 1-0 every week. That's how college teams run their thing. They're like, okay, let's go 1-0 this week. Every game means more. right, in football than any other sport. And now that the regular season's over, you hit that reset button and none of that matters anymore. All that matters is the game in front of you. Go 1-0. And that's what we have to do against the Baltimore Ravens. So previews coming up here on Steelers Digest. Thank you guys for watching this edition of Steelers Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. Again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Most of you have not yet subscribed to the channel, but some of you have, and we appreciate that. Hit the sub button and stay up to date on the latest news and content surrounding your Pittsburgh Steelers. Here we go into the weekend. Let's beat Baltimore, and we'll see you on the next episode of Steelers Digest.